Welcome to the Top Order podcast. This is match day 39 in this Cricket World Cup 50 over men's edition. On paper, this looks like a pretty simple game. Bangladesh winning by 3 wickets with 50 balls to spare. But we've got the dew having an effect on a game for the first time really in the tournament, as well as some talking points with Shakib Al-Hassan, not far away from controversy at most junctures in his cricketing career. We're going to discuss the cricket and the ramifications of his appeal, all on the Top Order podcast. Stay tuned. Well, boys, we've just done a very quick, very agile planning session prior to this this match day 39. From a cricketing perspective, plenty of talking points, I guess. Bangladesh, I think, choosing to chase because they felt that the dew would be a factor here in Delhi, and probably we were saying it's the first time it's really had an impact on a game in this tournament so far. But Sri Lanka, I guess we'll talk about their batting performance. Charith Asalanka scoring a pretty decent 100, but not getting a great deal of help elsewhere. And then Bangladesh chasing things down pretty comfortably. Some bowling performances of note as well. Tanzim Hassan Saqib bowling pretty well, albeit going for a few runs, as has been the case with the guys with a bit more pace in this tournament so far. Madushanka continues in the wickets as well. So we've got plenty of cricket to talk about. And then we've also got let's best describe them as unsavoury scenes. But we'll come on to that a little bit later. Raj, I know you watched certainly most of that first batting innings. What were your thoughts from Sri Lanka's approach setting a target in this game?
Yeah, the shining light for me really was Asalanka's 100. I did watch most of it. He looked in control for the majority of it, and he batted well. As you said, without much help. Nissanka and Samarakarama both getting to 40 and then getting out, and so especially Samarakarama will be disappointed with how he got out. I have no doubt that if they had put a partnership together, going towards the 100 or past 100 runs, deeper into the innings, they would have posted a score over 300. They did a great job to get there. I thought they batted well. Baldy, over to you.
Baldy's on mute here. First time of the podcast series. Looks like he can't get himself off mute as well.
I can't. It's all gone horribly, horribly wrong. I went into producer mode because I thought I'll just sit here and listen to you guys talk about the cricket and then debate the ramifications of the spirit of cricket. Look, it was, as you say, not enough support from Asalanka in scoring his 100. And for Sri Lanka, it's kind of been the story of their tournament, really. They've had one guy maybe have a decent performance with either bat or ball, and then not enough players stand up around them. So either, as you say, Samarakarama or Asalanka in this case getting some runs. 279 looked like it was probably below par, Raj. Would you agree on that surface? It looked like a pretty good batting surface, and always, well, not always, but in this case, for the first time, the dew becomes a factor in the bowling innings and really advantages that side batting first. But batting second, sorry, I should say.
Second. Look, I actually thought it was an okay score. Obviously, I hadn't factored the dew in there. I think that if that had been played in the same conditions, it would have been a fairly hard chase. Bangladesh didn't make it easy for themselves. Taskin Ahmed bowled really well without taking a wicket. He was very hard to hit. Bowled great cross seamers, bowled good change-ups, and then obviously bowled with good pace. That's all I really had in that first innings. Before not talking about the elephant in the room, maybe we cover off Bangladesh's innings first. Anything stand out to you in the Bangladesh chase, Binksy?
Yeah, look, I guess the thing I'd say is we've seen, I guess to an extent throughout the course of this tournament, Afghanistan really come to the party and string together a number of really, really good ODI performances. Bangladesh have obviously been in the top 10 nations for a little while longer, but I think the way that they were so clinical with their chase, they were in a bit of trouble early doors. A couple of wickets down inside or just outside the first 6 overs. And then obviously, a really, really good partnership from Shanto and Shakib Al-Hassan. We'll talk about Shakib a little bit later on with the incident, but paced his innings really, really well. He is a genuinely world-class one-day international all-rounder, and probably all-rounder across 3 formats for Bangladesh. So I think what impressed me was the clinicality of their, if that's a word, that their chase, and then I guess a little bit of a wobble as well. Once Shakib was out, they lost 3 or 4 wickets pretty quickly, but then able to get over the line because they'd broken the back of that chase early up and did it with nearly 10 overs to spare, right? So I think it was really, really, really clinical for them. I think then where that sort of feeds in for me is, this really is about qualification for that ICC Champions trophy, isn't it? So I don't know whether they would have had any sort of eye on the net run rate situation as part of that, the way that they were pacing that chase and why Shakib went out quite hard. But they've just nudged ahead in the table on net run rate at this stage. So look, destiny in their hands really to finish in that, I think, 7th place, which is the one that guarantees qualification for that tournament as we move forward.
Yeah, that 5 for 59, which they lost towards the end of that chase, it's symptomatic of how Bangladesh have been batting and the troubles they've had. But look, the only disappointing thing or the negative that they'll have Bangladesh is that Shanto and Shakib couldn't finish that off. They put themselves in a great position. They were ahead of the rate the whole time. Took risks when they needed to, and there were some actually really good shots straight down the ground as well, with the dew becoming a factor there for them, really giving them the edge in that chase. The only other thing I wanted to talk about in that innings, and I'll come to you, Baldy, in a second, because you've talked about Dilshan Madushanka a lot during this tournament. I think they've got a real potential of a great player here. He's looking. I'm looking forward to seeing how he develops. He very rarely has the same look to a batsman, which I think helps him. He swings it, he cuts it, he rolls around the wicket, and he comes back well through the innings. It's not just with the new ball. So yeah, looks good. Summary from me, Baldy.
Oh, thank you. That's exactly my summary. He looks very, very good. The thing that's really impressed me is that he's showed us a wide variety of skills for a man of such a young age at his first major tournament, really. He showed that he can swing the ball. He cut one to dismiss Rohit. He's rolled his fingers over the ball. He's had the ball sort of cross-seam to stand it up and hold it up in the wicket. As you say, he's come around the wicket. He's got a tremendous amount of skill for a young man early on in his international career. So it's very, very exciting for Sri Lankan fans, again, even though they've lost this match, to see the development of Dilshan Madushanka, who, if he stays fit and he stays healthy and he's able to play multiple formats, he could be a guy that is a staple of their international side for many, many years to come. Just on Bangladesh, before we move off the cricket-related stuff, Raj, you mentioned it a little while ago when we talked about how Bangladesh was struggling in this tournament. Don't they look a completely different side when Shakib Al Hasan, Mahmudullah and Mushfiqur Rahim bat 4-5-6 instead of 5-6-7? This is the different look that Bangladesh can give international sides, and they just look like a different cricket side when they're able to put together big partnerships because you've got your key batters batting for as long as possible in their batting innings. So Bangladesh have made a subtle change, but one that is very, very important in terms of turning around their fortunes in this tournament so far.
And also the massive key there is that someone else has contributed, whether that, in previous games has been a Litton Das or in this game, Ashanto and other games as well. But they need that in order to push them over 300. They can't just rely on those 3 players every time. If Mushfiqur Rahim had sort of kicked on and they were setting a score, maybe they would have got, 320 here. They were in the position to do that. Actually, they probably higher than that if they had held their wickets, judging by the pace that they were going. So yeah, we talked about it in the preview show that we've got these, great players, the Shakib Al Hasan, the Mushfiqur Rahims, but they need those performances that chip in around them, and this was an occasion where they got that.
Before we, I guess, move on and talk about the ramifications for the rest of the tournament in terms of the fixtures coming up, so Australia, Afghanistan tonight, we'll talk about that in a sec. We've got to cover off this Angelo Matthews dismissal. As you'd expect, plenty of press about this after the game, but For those of you that didn't see it, Angelo Matthews took somewhere in the region of 2 minutes to come out to bat. I think it's fair to say that there have been various stopwatches and sort of forensic analysis on Twitter, which is obviously the best place for all of that, clearly. Sorry, I should call it by its proper name as well, X. Yes, apologies to anyone who was offended by my incorrect usage of the word Twitter there. But a couple of minutes to get in, had a problem with his helmet. If we then go based on the after-match interviews, etc., Shakib said he felt he was at war when asked about the Angelo Matthews situation. He said, one of our fielders came to me and said, if you appeal, he'll be out. If you are serious. And then the umpire asked him whether he was serious, and he said, no, I am going to uphold the appeal. If it's out in the rules, I won't take it back. And then, kind of tellingly for me, he says, and this is, I'm reading this from Quick Info, it is in the laws. I don't know if it is right or wrong, but I felt like I was at war. I had to take a decision to make sure my team wins. Right or wrong, there will be debates. But if it's in the rules, I don't mind taking these chances. So, I guess this is just the opinion of the Top Order podcast. So expect, the comments in our YouTube to blow up a little bit on this. But boys, what do we think? I'm leaning on the side of this being wrong. What about you, boys?
Baldy, we'll let you go first.
Okay.
Prepared remarks.
Prepared remarks.
Prepared remarks.
Two most dangerous words in the English language.
I don't have prepared remarks. We've all captained cricket sides, and we've all been placed in situations where you need to make a decision that, by the letter of the laws of cricket, go one way, and then potentially by the spirit of cricket or sportsmanship or a moral decision might lead you in another direction. We've all been there, and I'm certain that anyone who's captained the cricket side, particularly in clubland or a situation where you've got player umpires, has been faced with a decision like this in the past. In this particular instance, by the letter of the law, even with the number of stopwatches out there, and I was quite surprised by the number of reactions on X, formerly known as Twitter, thanks Elon Musk for changing the name to confuse everyone, that everybody had a stopwatch out at that particular moment, and everyone could tell you exactly how long it was between Angelo Matthews arriving at the ground or the batter being dismissed and him having an issue with his helmet. Regardless of all of that, it wasn't like it was an egregious failure for Angelo Matthews to arrive at the crease and ready to receive the next delivery. It was of the order of 2 minutes or thereabouts, notwithstanding the helmet issue. So I don't really see there being an egregious breach of the law here. It's somewhere in the vicinity of a technicality. There's an equipment failure involved. There's discretion that the captain has to look at the situation and go, well, the letter of the law in cricket says one thing. I don't think this is a situation where you need to apply the letter of the law because the batter is committing some kind of egregious breach of that law. So I think for me, Shakib could have exercised a little bit more discretion in terms of his judgment. Of course, the umpire, by the way you said it, Adam, gave Shakib the opportunity to withdraw his appeal. He's chosen not to do so, so he's chosen to uphold the appeal. And by the letter of the law, the umpire then has no recourse but to apply the law as it is written by the MCC. So the umpire is stuck between a rock and a hard place, but I think discretion could have been the better part of valor here for the Bangladeshi Tigers.
Yeah, completely agree with both of your sentiments there. I've heard a lot on social media of people saying, this is not in the spirit of cricket, or going down those lines. I don't think that this is a discussion about the spirit of cricket. I think there is an element of it, but this is actually a discussion of the intention of that rule. Why is that rule actually there? Angelo Matthews wasn't swanning around in the dressing room eating lunch, getting dressed, and took ages to get out into the middle. He got there on time. He was facing up. He had an equipment malfunction. So if we play that out, what are the opposition and the umpires asking him to do? They expect him to face up without protective equipment. That doesn't seem right to me. If it had happened one ball later and he had taken 10 minutes to get a helmet, there would have been no repercussions for it at all. It doesn't seem to make sense to me. I don't know if this hasn't come up. What did they say? This is the first time this kind of dismissal has happened in the 140 odd years of international cricket that we've had, which should tell you something, I guess. I was quite fired up about it last night. I was telling you guys, if we'd done the pod last night, I think my discussion or my language would have been a bit different. I think if I had been in that position, and we can only talk about it from if we feel that we had been in that position, I don't think I could have made the decision to make that appeal.
Yeah, and that for me is the biggest piece. Is what did the umpires out on the field say to Shakib? Was it as a case of if you appeal he's out, are you really serious about this, or did they try and offer any counsel and say, mate, I don't think this is going to be a great look? And then similarly, is there no one else in that Bangladesh unit that comes up to him and says, do you know what, mate, I don't think this is the right thing. I don't think this is the right thing to do under the circumstances. Look, I guess that might come out over the course of the next few days, but certainly, puts a sour taste a little bit on the cricket. Let's move on and talk about tonight, Paul D. I'm sure you're going to find a way to play down Australia's chances, but I think if the maths is correct, you've got the ability to actually lose both of your remaining games and still go through to the semi-final stages. So you've got to be pretty happy with that position going into a game, obviously, against Afghanistan tonight. Your thoughts on where Australia are placed, and then maybe let's move on to the wider piece after that as well.
Well, Australia should win this fixture tonight. Afghanistan have been in tremendous form, as we know. They've won, 4 out of their last 5 games. Australia have won 5 out of their last 5 games. They should have Glenn Maxwell back tonight from concussion protocols. They hopefully will have Mitchell Marsh back tonight from his trip to Australia for personal reasons for the passing of his grandfather. So Australia will get some much-needed players back into their squad that you would normally expect to be in the first 11, and that throws up questions around the balance of their team. Does Cameron Green keep his spot? Does Marnus Labuschagne keep his spot? Does Marcus Stoinis keep his spot? So there will be some questions around the balance of the Australian side going into this game. As you say, Australia have got 2 games to pick up 2 points. 1 win will be enough for Australia to secure a spot in the semi-finals. 2 losses will mean that they'll need other results to go their way to qualify for the semi-finals. So there is a lot to play for Australia, not least of which because we want to see how Mitchell Marsh will perform batting at number 4, how Glenn Maxwell comes back from his concussion. If we see Cameron Green, are we going to see him bowl? So there are lots of questions for Australia to answer leading into what potentially could be a semi-final against South Africa. We've played South Africa a lot in 2023 with some mixed results. We've seen South Africa humbled by India in the last couple of days, so they'll be hurting. There is a lot to play for Australia in games that we expect Australia to win. And this will be the interesting thing for me, is whether or not Australia can be the clinical type of side that we've seen in World Cups past, in 99, in 2003, in 2007, where Australia won games that they should have won and won them big, or whether this is an Australian side that has a hiccup and has issues somewhere in the middle of their lineup in these last 2 games. So I think despite the fact that we expect Australia, or lots of people expect Australia to win and win well, and I do too, there will be some interesting subplots to this story around how Australia go about their cricket and how clinical they are in dispatching sides that we would expect them to beat 9.5 times out of 10.
Just a question for you, Baldy, on Marnus Labuschagne. If your side is fully fit, Steve Smith suffering some symptoms of vertigo, if he is fully fit and able to play, do you think it's a bit rough on Marnus after he played a great innings in the last one day? Do you think it's a bit rough on him missing out?
I think it is a little bit rough, but I don't think Australia, when fully fit, will want to go in with 2 guys in Smith and Labuschagne that play similar types of roles in the middle order. The Joe Root role for England when he's in form, that kind of hold it together while other guys go a little bit harder and are more aggressive around him. The criticism, of course, for Marnus Labuschagne is that in this World Cup, He has struck it largely between 65 and 75, and that has hampered Australia's ability to score really, really big totals. I think if Steve Smith were in better form, he's only averaged sort of 28 to 30 in this World Cup. He's only got past 50 once, and I think that was against the Netherlands. If he was in form, this wouldn't be a discussion. Marnus would drop out, and Steve Smith would definitely be the preferred man batting at number 3. As it is, I think in terms of form, they've both been reasonably similar. Marnus may have a slight edge in terms of form, but reputationally, I think you'd take Smith over Marnus most days of the week and probably twice on Sundays. But Australia, I think, are looking to get the right balance of their side, and they like to play lots of all-rounders. They like having Marsh, Stoinis, Maxwell, Travis Head, if you count his little bit of off-spin, etc. So I think that's the way that Australia will go. Might be a little bit harsh on Marnus, but he's a guy that can come in and do a job for you.
Fantastic. Raj, any closing comments from you? Other than, of course, I guess, looking forward to the next 2 or 3 days. We're going to really see it, that fourth place certainly get itself decided. But any thoughts from you before we wrap up for the day?
Look, I have, one eye focused on this Australia-Afghanistan game, but also looking forward into the tournament. New Zealand, obviously, my primary focus. I want to see how they finish out the tournament. At the end of the day, we discussed this actually last night when we were at cricket. We need to discuss the format of the tournament because India has been so dominant throughout this tournament. They're possibly going to go through with 9 wins out of 9, and I don't feel they get an advantage for that going into the playoffs. That'll be the big talking point for me going forward. But look, I'm just looking forward to getting through these round robin games and into these playoff games and the final.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure we'll debate that. I guess specifically if India fall at either of the two final hurdles, I'm sure we'll come back to talk about that, and no jeopardy really for the other teams. And if India do go through, there's certainly an argument that they should receive some advantage. But let's see what the cricketing gods think, shall we, over the course of the next week or so. We will, of course, be back in your feed to talk Afghanistan, Australia. Then we've got, I think, England, Netherlands coming up before that, New Zealand, Sri Lanka game, if I've got my order of events correct. And then we will be back as well early next week to preview the semi-finals and final on your regular podcast programming. So we'll hopefully get together in a room and record our usual format, make some bold predictions that will turn out to be tremendously wrong, etc., leading into the knockout stages of the tournament. But for now, it is good morning and good bless from us all here in Auckland, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Top Order Podcast World Cup review shows. See you later.